Marcus Rogers adjusts his Italian leather briefcase while stepping through the revolving doors of Seattle's most prestigious law firm. The morning sun catches the gold lettering on the window. Rogers and Associates, Criminal Defense and Civil Rights. At 35, he's the youngest founding partner in the city's legal history. His assistant, Rachel, hurries forward with a stack of case files. The Thompson hearing got moved up to 9, and the Mitchell family is waiting in your office, she says, matching his brisk pace toward the elevator. Marcus nods, his mind already racing through precedents and strategies. The weight of his tailored suit feels surreal, a far cry from the orange jumpsuit he wore for 9 years. Inside his office, sunlight streams through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the framed newspaper headline, "Wrongfully Convicted Man Becomes Top Defense Attorney." The Mitchell family rises as he enters, mother, father, and their teenage son charged with a crime he swears he didn't commit. Marcus sees himself in the boy's terrified eyes. He remembers the cold metal handcuffs, the hostile stares from the jury, the sound of the gavel sealing his fate. "Please sit." Marcus gestures to the leather chairs while settling behind his mahogany desk. He notices Mrs. Mitchell's worn purse, Mr. Mitchell's calloused hands, working-class people who remind him of his own parents, who sold everything trying to prove his innocence. "Before we discuss your son's case," Marcus begins, his voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who's lived both sides of the justice system, "I want you to know something. 9 years ago, I sat where you're sitting now, facing a system that seemed impossible to fight. Today, I run this firm because I believe everyone deserves a voice in that system." He opens the case file, his Harvard Law degree visible on the wall behind him. The irony doesn't escape him. He learned his first law lessons in a prison library. "Now, tell me everything, and don't leave out any details. The truth matters here, every single piece of it." As the family begins their story, Marcus glances at the small wooden box on his desk. Inside, he keeps his old prison ID card, a reminder of where he started and why he fights so hard for every client who walks through his door. The morning sun continues to rise over Seattle's skyline, promising another day of battles in the courtroom, another chance to turn the system's wrongs into something right. Rachel appears in the doorway with his morning coffee, 1 sugar, no cream, just as the Mitchell boy begins describing the night of his arrest. Marcus leans forward, his eyes intense with focus. He knows that somewhere in these details lies the key to justice, just like it did in his own case 9 years ago. The fluorescent lights flicker in Marcus's prison cell as he reads his mother's letter for the 100th time. Her usually neat handwriting is shaky, tear-stained words describing how she's selling their family home, the house he grew up in, where his father had planted the maple tree in the front yard before passing away. Marcus sits on his thin mattress, back against the cold concrete wall. 9 months into his 60-year sentence, and reality is setting in like frost on metal. The letter trembles in his hands. "Baby, I'm sorry. The lawyers want another $50,000 for the appeal. The house is all we have left." The dinner bell rings through the cell block, but Marcus doesn't move. His mind wanders to Sunday dinners in that house, his mother's cornbread, the smell of fresh paint when they redid his bedroom the summer before everything fell apart. Now she's losing it all because 12 strangers wouldn't believe a young black mechanic's alibi. His cellmate, Trevor, returns with a tray of food. "You gotta eat, man," he says, sliding a portion of his meal across their shared metal table. Trevor's been inside for 15 years, knows the toll the first year takes on a man's soul. Marcus folds the letter carefully, tucking it into his Bible, the only possession he brought from home. The food tastes like sawdust in his mouth, but he forces it down, watching shadows lengthen across the cell floor. Outside, beyond layers of razor wire and concrete, his mother is probably signing away their home. The night guard makes his rounds, flashlight beams sweeping through cells. Marcus lies awake, staring at the ceiling, remembering his father's words. "Son, when life hits hardest, that's when you find out what you're made of." He'd said it during their last conversation, 3 months before cancer took him. A distant siren wails somewhere in the prison complex. Marcus closes his eyes, picturing his mother alone in their empty house, packing away 27 years of memories. Tomorrow, she'll meet with the realtor. Next week, strangers will sleep in his childhood bedroom. He pulls out a notebook, prison-issued, with flimsy pages, and begins to write. If he can't stop his mother from losing their home, he can at least document everything. Every detail of his case, every inconsistency in the witness statements, every moment of that day he was supposedly robbing a store while actually fixing Mrs. Anderson's transmission across town. The words flow until dawn, filling page after page. Marcus doesn't know it yet, but these late-night writing sessions will eventually become the foundation of his own appeal, the first step towards something greater than survival. The prison cafeteria buzzes with morning activity as Marcus scrapes bland oatmeal from his metal tray. Through the crowd, he spots James Chen, the elderly librarian, making his way toward him with purpose in his measured steps. "You're wasting your potential on kitchen duty," James says, settling onto the bench across from Marcus. His wire-rimmed glasses catch the fluorescent light as he slides a worn physics textbook across the table. Marcus stares at the book, then at James. "I'm here for 60 years. What's the point?" The bitterness in his voice surprises even him. 3 years in, and hope feels like a distant memory. James leans forward, his voice dropping low. "I watched you organize the kitchen schedules, calculate inventory with nothing but mental math. Your mind needs more than measuring portions of mashed potatoes." That afternoon, Marcus follows James to the prison library. Dusty shelves stretch toward the ceiling, holding everything from dog-eared paperbacks to advanced mathematics texts. James hands him another book, Introduction to Logic and Critical Thinking. "Start here," James says, pointing to a quiet corner desk. 2 hours every day. I'll test you on Friday." His tone leaves no room for argument. Days blur into weeks. Marcus discovers he has a talent for logical reasoning, devouring books on philosophy, mathematics, and eventually, law. Other inmates begin asking him to help with their GED studies. One morning, James arrives with a proposal. "We have 15 men wanting to earn their GED. They need teachers." His eyes twinkle behind his glasses. "Think you can handle algebra and English composition?" Marcus sets up study groups in the library's back corner. He learns that teaching others helps him master concepts faster. The men call him professor, half joking at first, then with genuine respect. James watches from his desk, quietly proud as Marcus transforms from student to mentor. Education, he tells Marcus one evening, is the one thing they can never lock up. 6 months later, Marcus leads 3 study groups and spends his evenings drafting a curriculum for more. The same mind that once counted kitchen inventory now explains quadratic equations and essay structure to fellow inmates. In his cell at night, surrounded by textbooks borrowed from James, Marcus realizes something has shifted inside him. The anger that once consumed his days has been replaced by purpose. He's not just serving time anymore. He's preparing for something bigger, even if he doesn't know what yet. Marcus sits at the library desk late into the night, surrounded by stacks of law books. His fingers trace the words of a case that makes his heart race. People v. Henderson, 1976. The similarities to his own conviction are striking. The library's quiet is broken only by the scratch of his pencil as he takes meticulous notes. 3 years of studying law have sharpened his mind into a precision tool. James occasionally brings him coffee, watching his former student evolve into something remarkable. At midnight, Marcus discovers a crucial detail that makes him drop his pencil. The Henderson case established that withholding surveillance footage constitutes a Brady violation, exactly what happened in his case. His hands shake as he pulls out his case files. He begins drafting his appeal, working through dawn. The words flow with newfound legal expertise, citing precedents and constitutional violations. Other inmates call him crazy for believing he can fight the system. But Marcus sees something they don't, a path to freedom. 2 weeks later, he submits his handwritten appeal to the court. The guards smirk as they process his paperwork, but Marcus knows this time is different. This isn't just another inmate's desperate plea. It's a carefully crafted legal argument. When the response comes, it's not another rejection. Instead, it's a request for more information about the surveillance footage he mentioned. Marcus's hands tremble as he reads the court's letter, remembering the store across from the robbery he supposedly committed. He sends a formal request for the footage through his newly appointed public defender. The response changes everything. The tape exists, but was never entered into evidence. Marcus spends nights pacing his cell, knowing he's uncovered the truth that could set him free. The breakthrough comes when his defender finds the footage in a dusty evidence box. It shows a clear view of the robbery, and the perpetrator is 6 inches shorter than Marcus, with a distinctive limp. His appeal suddenly has teeth. Marcus hunches over his metal desk, the evening count echoing through the cell block. His latest legal discovery feels like electricity in his veins. The precedent case matches perfectly, same jurisdiction, similar evidence suppression, nearly identical circumstances. Through his small window, moonlight spills onto pages of carefully crafted arguments. Each paragraph represents hundreds of hours in the prison library, years of studying case law while others watch TV or play cards. Down the hall, James brings him contraband coffee, watching his former student work with fierce concentration. "You found something big, haven't you?" he whispers, eyes bright behind wire-rimmed glasses. Marcus nods, pointing to a highlighted passage. The Williams case established that withholding exculpatory evidence violates due process. "They had footage proving my innocence, James. They knew, and they buried it." His appeal reaches Sarah Martinez's desk at the Innocence Project on a Tuesday morning. She almost misses it in the stack of prisoner mail, but something catches her eye: the precise legal citations, the clear argument structure. Sarah stays late that night, reading Marcus's file 3 times. The evidence suppression is blatant, the constitutional violations clear, but it's his self-taught legal expertise that amazes her most. She drives to the prison the next day, expecting to find another jailhouse lawyer. Instead, she meets a brilliant legal mind trapped in prison blues. Marcus presents his research methodically, like a seasoned attorney. "How did you learn all this?" Sarah asks, gesturing to his meticulously organized case files. Marcus glances at James, who's pretending to shelve books nearby. "I had a good teacher, and nothing but time to study." That evening, Sarah calls her supervisor. "We need to take this case," she says, conviction in her voice. This man belongs in law school, not prison. In his cell, Marcus can't sleep. After 9 years of darkness, he sees a glimmer of light. His mother's voice echoes in his memory. "Baby, keep faith. Truth always finds its way out." Sarah sits before the appeals court, heart pounding beneath her tailored suit. The DNA test results arrived yesterday, conclusive proof of Marcus's innocence. Her voice remains steady as she presents the evidence. The security footage plays on the courtroom screen. The real perpetrator, 6 inches shorter than Marcus, limps clearly into view. Sarah watches the judges' faces change as they see the truth that was hidden for 9 years. In his prison cell, Marcus paces. Today determines everything. He thinks of James, now retired from the prison library, but still sending encouraging letters. Of his mother, who never stopped believing. The prosecutor rises, admitting the original trial team withheld evidence. He can't defend the indefensible. DNA from the robbery scene matches a known serial offender, already serving time for similar crimes. Sarah's phone buzzes, a text from her investigator. They found 2 more cases where evidence was suppressed by the same prosecution team. This goes beyond Marcus's case now. The chief judge removes her glasses, her expression grave. The evidence is overwhelming. This conviction cannot stand. Her words echo through the courtroom like thunder. Marcus receives the news during dinner count. His hand shakes so badly he drops his spoon. Freedom, after 9 years. Reality bends around him like a dream. In her office that evening, Sarah begins drafting legislation to prevent future evidence suppression. Marcus's case will become a catalyst for change, she decides. This story deserves more than just freedom. It demands justice for others. The guards process Marcus's release papers as the sun sets. Tomorrow, he'll walk out those gates, but tonight, he writes one last letter to James. "You were right. Knowledge truly is freedom." The morning sun bathes the prison gates in golden light as Marcus takes his first steps as a free man. His mother rushes forward, her arms wrapping around him with 9 years of stored embraces. Reporters crowd the sidewalk, cameras flashing. Marcus holds his mother close, feeling her tears dampen his borrowed suit jacket. The prison counselor gave it to him this morning. His old clothes from 1998 no longer fit. Sarah Martinez stands nearby, beaming. She holds a folder containing his compensation paperwork and law school application. "Ready to start your new life?" she asks, after the reporters disperse. Marcus breathes deeply, tasting freedom. The world has changed. Smartphones, flat-screen TVs in store windows, hybrid cars gliding silently past. But his determination has only grown stronger. That evening, in his mother's small apartment, they shared their first family dinner in 9 years. She's made all his favorites: fried chicken, mac and cheese, sweet potato pie. The empty chair where his father should be aches like a phantom limb. Marcus unfolds his law school acceptance letter. Full scholarship to Harvard Law, starting next semester. Sarah pulled strings, showed them his legal work from prison. His self-taught expertise impressed the admissions board. Later, alone in his childhood bedroom, now barely bigger than his cell, Marcus writes a letter to James. "You gave me education when they tried to take everything else," he writes. "Now I'm going to use it to help others." His mother knocks softly, bringing fresh sheets. She pauses in the doorway, watching her son. No longer the angry young man they locked away, but someone stronger, wiser, purposeful. "Daddy would be so proud," she whispers. Marcus nods, unable to speak around the lump in his throat. Tomorrow, he'll start preparing for law school. Tonight, he savors the simple miracle of being home. Marcus stands at the podium in Harvard Law's largest lecture hall, facing a sea of eager faces. His story, from wrongful conviction to founding partner, has drawn standing room-only crowds. "The law is a tool," he begins, voice carrying to the back row. "Like any tool, it depends on who wields it." He shares his journey from prison library to prestigious law firm, watching understanding dawn in young eyes. His nonprofit, Second Chance Legal Foundation, has grown beyond his wildest dreams. They've helped free 32 wrongfully convicted individuals in 5 years. Each case strengthens their push for reform. Between lectures and running his firm, Marcus visits prisons nationwide. He brings books, hope, and legal expertise. Today's stop is Michigan State, where it all began. James' legacy lives on in the expanded library program. Sarah Martinez, now his foundation's legal director, handles their latest case. Another young man, another flawed conviction. Marcus recognizes the look in his eyes, the same desperation he once felt. His mother sits front row at every major trial, watching her son transform pain into purpose. The courtroom no longer sees prison ID number 247,891. They see Marcus Rogers, Esquire, a force for change. The legislation he helped draft, requiring prosecutors to share all evidence, passes in 3 more states. His phone buzzes constantly with calls from lawmakers seeking his insight on reform. As Marcus drives home, past his old prison, he remembers James' words. Knowledge is freedom. He's built his life on that truth, turning bars into bridges, helping others find their way to justice.